the Jewish, Hispanic, and Black men who made the cut, but what about Native Americans? Well, WSLU presented a big surprise. Take a look.
He's one that can hold that kick longer than anybody else, especially in that last turn when everybody's popping up the surface and he's still in the water taking that dolphin kick. That's his most dangerous weapon.
That has actually been the subject of scientific study by an expert in fluid dynamics, no less.
My name is Rajat Mittal. I'm a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering at the George Washington University. What we decided to do was essentially compare these swimmers to the dolphin, assuming that the dolphin is the ultimate swimmer. And the thing that we found was that Michael is able to use his body in a way that seems to be very, very different from the other athletes, and also seems to be much closer to dolphins than we have seen for any other swimmer.
He gave us these soccer balls and made us happy. He lives here in our hearts. We're very happy with the soccer balls.
We would like to say to his family, it is true that he was killed and they lost him. But as far as we are concerned, he is present with the Iraqi children. And whenever they play soccer, they will remember him.
I see those kids living in those conditions, and they look so happy. And Nick is there with him. You know, Nick's name is there.
It's her heavy lifting at home, though, that might impress you more.
Today you want cereal?
33-year-old Melanie is a wife and mother of 3.
Mom!
Including 7-year-old Ethan, 3-year-old Camille, and 5-year-old Drew, who is autistic.
Drew, look at me. You're saying, honey.
Honey.
Look at my eyes.
Honey.
I
want honey.
Being the mother to Drew and having a child with autism has made me a better weightlifter. I enjoy every day in the gym. I enjoy it like it's my last day because I just don't know what tomorrow will bring and I don't worry about it. That's what Drew has taught me, and that's why I'm a better athlete, and I know that's why I made the Olympic team.
There you go. Ready?
Hey.
All right, let's go.
At Challenger Field, you won't find a scoreboard.
Second base!
Or an umpire. And in this league, you not only get a high five from your coach, but the first baseman too.
We're gonna do it. I told you.
It's baseball in its purest form.
We have kids that have Down syndrome, kids that have cerebral palsy, kids with autism, all different ranges of autism, muscular dystrophy, anything that won't let them play on a traditional team. We start off with 14 kids on the field running around in winter coats, and before you know it, they really liked it.
Now, 15 years later, there are players and teams from all over the bi-state area.
The season culminates with the All-Star Game, where all 150 kids in the Challenger Baseball League are All-Stars.
The Iroquois Museum's cedar shingles resemble the elm bark of a traditional Iroquois longhouse or meeting place. And with the Baseball Hall of Fame just 35 miles down the road in Cooperstown, it's the ideal meeting place to tell the largely invisible history of Native American ball players. Inside, you're greeted by more than a dozen black and white photos of players with Native ancestry. Many are household names.
Lucky Dent, Johnny Bench, and Early Wynn. I didn't know there were this many Native Americans.
At least 47 men of Native descent have played in the big leagues. A full 10 of them were simply called Chief.
Accepting for NPR is Uri Berliner, Sports and Business Editor. Accepting for ESPN is Jose Morales, Feature Producer. Accepting for Cairo FM is Jim Farley, Bonneville's Vice President for News. Accepting for WALA is Rob Lahocki, Sports Anchor. Accepting for KSDK is Mike Bush, Co-Anchor. And accepting for WSLU is David Summerstein, Assistant News Director.
Now to the newscast category, and the 6 winners in newscast are CBS, KCCI TV, WDEL AM, KMOX AM, WMUR TV, and ABC Radio. And for each, we've highlighted the opening story or stories from each winning newscast.
Tonight, the bailout take two. The government shifts its focus, investing more money directly into banks to get them to start lending again. But will the auto industry get any of that money? I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, Mexico's drug wars move to American soil. It's nothing to sneeze at. Internet giant Google says it can track the flu better than the U.S. government.
Sandbagging and evacuations. People scrambling to do both along the Des Moines River today after last night's rainwater pushes water levels even higher. The water already moving into some businesses and buildings along Court Avenue in downtown Des Moines. We'll see what they're doing to fight the rising water.
And tragedy to our west. A beloved Eagle Grove teenager is killed when a tornado rips through a Boy Scout camp. Fighting floods in Des Moines, rising waters in Ottumwa, a tornado tragedy in Little Sioux. Just three of the stories we have in our special one-hour edition of News Channel 8 at 6.
Here are Delaware's top stories for Thursday, June 5th.
Captain, dismiss your troops.
153rd MP Company. Dismiss.
With those words, a one-year deployment for about 150 members of the Delaware National Guard came to an end. The 153rd Military Police Company returned from their second deployment in the last 5 years to their base at the Newcastle Airport.
KMOX's Megan Lynch was one of our news team members on the scene last night.
The first gunshots rang out about 7 in the evening at the Kirkwood Police Department, directed at an officer
who was leaving the building. He was outside in an adjacent parking lot when he was approached by a suspect who shot him and killed him.
That's Tracy Panis with the St. Louis County Police Department, who says the gunman then traveled next door to City Hall, entered the council meeting, and fired more shots. The first victim there was another Kirkwood police officer.
He shot 3 other people who were attending the council meeting. They are also deceased.
Intense, ferocious, and quick-moving. Storms swept in almost without warning. A home leveled in Deerfield, a woman inside killed. Elsewhere, houses and buildings blown to bits.
It was scary, very scary.
But it took the back window out of my car and the side window out of another car.
Live at the Capitol, where the financial rescue bill is on the edge of defeat. Republican leader John Boehner had tried to get his GOP colleagues to vote yes.
These are the kind of votes that we have to look into our soul and understand and ask ourselves the question, what is in the best interest of our country?
Accepting for CBS News is Rick Kaplan, executive producer. Accepting for KCCI is John Hoyam, producer. Accepting for WDEL AM is Melanie Armstrong, reporter. Accepting for KMOX AM is John Butler, news director. Accepting for WMUR TV is Alicia McDevitt, newscast producer. And accepting for ABC News Radio is Steve Jones, vice president and general manager.
WTOP Radio wins the 4th overall award. Aside from many national stories, they also covered some important local ones, including a broken water main that flooded intersections, endangering lives. In one long report, one of their reporters hovered in a helicopter, providing calm coverage of a rescue.
The rescue boat has maneuvered itself so it's resting right against the black Honda SUV. The firefighter, who is wearing a vest and a helmet, is communicating with the person who's inside the car. He had to bang on the window to get the person to open up. Right now, an elderly passenger is being walked by the firefighter. It's now standing in the rushing water and is making a way towards the boat.
Accepting for WTOP is Jim Farley, Vice President of News and Programming, who will say a few words.
You know, sometimes when you work in radio news, you feel like the lone German on the beach in June 1944, and you look out and the fog starts to lift. But people have been predicting the demise of radio since Al Jolson did the first talking motion picture, and all of those predictions have been wrong. Today, in this year, radio reaches 93% of all Americans every week. The audience for radio is in excess of 230 million people per week. There are over 2 billion with a B, radios out there, and not one of them became obsolete when we went from analog to digital. And now your iPod Nano and your Zune Media Player also play radio. And the fastest growing format in radio today, it's spoken word programming. Time and again, radio has been the lone functioning news source in areas ravaged by hurricanes and other natural disasters, providing a calm voice in turbulent times. Radio has always been a mobile, go-anywhere medium. Now more than ever, what is a radio newsroom today? It's a group of highly intelligent people who are engaging and informing as many people as possible across as many mediums as possible. You know, we send out news and information on AM radio, on FM radio, on HD radio, on podcasts, and worldwide on streaming audio. We text and tweet and send email alerts, and we put video, audio, text, and graphics on robust websites garnering hundreds of millions of page views per day. Talking motion pictures didn't do in radio. Television didn't kill radio. Cable didn't kill radio. And the video star didn't kill the radio star. You know, new technology won't do anything but help radio. We gather news and information, and then we put it out in a compelling, interesting fashion because we're good storytellers. We can push it out on any new device that comes along, just as we've made computers, cell phones, just additional tools to reach audiences far beyond the reach of our terrestrial transmitters. So thank you, RTDNA, for the Murrow Awards, which recognize excellence in television and radio news, and in the future on devices we can't even imagine just yet. Thanks to my company, Bonneville, headed by Bruce Rees, who has this old-fashioned notion you should actually serve your community of license, provide public service, community service. Winning awards in news is important and should be celebrated. To my boss, Joel Oxley, but most of all, to the hardworking and very competitive men and women of the WTOP radio newsroom, quarterbacked by the best radio news director in the country, Mike McMurdy. Thanks to all of the radio news operations who have won national and regional Murrows. Because of you, radio news is alive and well, but just changing. Thank you.
Well done. News series are next. And CBS Radio News covered many aspects of last year's election. You remember Obama won. KPIX TV in San Francisco did a big series on various aspects of life in Africa, lack of water, the influence of witchcraft, and the excerpts that we've chosen, how American computer carcasses poison the air in Guinea. In St. Louis, KWMU-FM went in depth into the growing number of gangs and gang members in that city. The Yukon River near Anchorage is a source of important fishing income for the Native Americans who live on it. The king salmon weren't running in June of 2008, so the Fish and Game Commission stopped fishing for a month. K2UU's new series followed the financial pain for the fishermen and their families. The Today Show's American Story with Bob Dodson went up to Alaska to visit a small religious sect. And finally, WITF Radio did its own take on the impact of war when soldiers finally come home.
The sizable labor vote split at Steelworkers Local 2227 despite pungent steamed hot dogs and free soda from the machine. Barely 50 chairs were filled as union official Jim English bluntly implored members to bury prejudices.
If we all do what we should do, 10 years from now, nobody will be saying, I won't vote for somebody because of the color of their skin.
And there's a big Catholic vote. After Mass at St. Joseph's Church in Oil City, abortion foe Judy Anderton made it clear she'd never vote for Obama.
Here we are in Accra, Ghana. These kids can make a lot of money from this scrap because it's loaded with copper. And to get to that copper, they burn off the surrounding parts. We're told that a bundle like this can bring in the equivalent of $5. Pretty good when many Ghanaians exist on about $2 a day. But the cost is high. Computers release a cocktail of toxins when they're burned or smashed. Lead, dioxin, and mercury, to name a few.
Detective Alfonso Hayes is with the gang unit in the St. Louis Police Department. The 5-member unit tracks and monitors over 4,000 active gang members in the city. Because so many of the murders are caused by juveniles, sometimes he says all you can do is try to intervene early and make an impression. He points to a board on the wall with the photos of close to 200 dead gang members.
They come in through this door, and we have pictures of all their friends, all of the homeboys. Most of these guys are dead or in jail.
It has an impact not just on the fishermen, it has an impact on the families of the fishermen too.
As the night ends, they wait to weigh their haul. For chum salmon, they'll get 40 cents a pound. The few kings brought in will earn $5 a pound. Most won't make enough to cover the cost of tonight's outing.
You know, the fishermen didn't make anything on this. They went backwards in this fishery. Very, very, very disappointing, bitter feeling.
Out here, the past does not drift back into the past. Wilderness renews itself. Same with these people. The rhythm of their lives has not changed since 1650. For the first time, they're allowing you inside to witness an old believer's wedding.
The tall, heavy-set 20-year-old has a lot on his mind. Dixon is engaged, has an infant son, Matthew, and he's planning to marry his fiancée, Sally Rawls, by the end of the month. Dixon and Rawls plan a small, quiet ceremony, but say they'll have a larger celebration when he returns. His impending deployment is a touchy subject, and Rawls would rather not talk about it with others. She cries as Dixon goes over all he will miss in Matthew's young life.
I probably won't be back for his birthday. I know that, his first birthday. Probably won't be here for whenever he starts walking, stuff like that.
Accepting for CBS Radio News is Jennifer Brown, writer. Accepting for KPIX is Dana King, evening news anchor. Accepting for KWMU is Adam Allington, reporter. Accepting for KTUU is Jill Burke, anchor, reporter. Accepting for the Today Show is Bob Dotson. And accepting for WITF Radio is Scott Detro, State Capitol Bureau Chief.
And our next presenter, the lovely, the multi-talented, the gorgeous, and the very patient Hoda Kotb, co-anchor of NBC's Today Show.
Hello. First of all, I want to congratulate all the people who've won Murrows. It's such a thrill to win one. I won one several years ago, and now I laugh and scratch with Kathy Lee Gifford. Anyway, all right, let's start with our features department. All right, KARE-TV is in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where people have kind of gotten used to seeing a duck sitting on two pillows in the front seat of a huge delivery truck. You'll understand that over there in a minute. CBS's 60 Minutes reported on a boy named Rex who was born blind and brain damaged, but who had talent galore. He can play pieces of music on one hearing. Working with other blind musical savants, he demonstrates extraordinary abilities, but his emotions are harder to come by. Denver's radio station KOA-AM was startled to discover that there are still swingers in middle-class America. Where have they been? In Jackson, Mississippi, a WMSI-FM reporter found himself potentially wealthy because of oil exploration. Keyword there, potentially wealthy. The University of Missouri runs KOMU-TV. Their feature is about a painting contractor whose magic tree comes to life every year after a lot of effort on his part. World Vision has a weekly radio report that captures the human side of global issues in Africa. In Nigeria, one of their reporters found that poverty and illiteracy are no bar to getting the news out to the public on a daily basis. Let's watch.
So you're driving down the road, could be anywhere in the Twin Cities. You find yourself alongside a flatbed truck, glance to your left, and what the? Duck? There they are, Joe and Frank.
So he's inside enjoying the view, watching me work.
Delivering construction materials to projects all across the Twin Cities.
I'm a duck hunter, but I don't consider Frank a duck. I just consider him a friend.
A friend?
As stupid as it sounds, maybe if more people had a duck in your life, maybe we wouldn't be all so mad at each other.
You can teach Rex and the other children to imitate emotion.
Yes, and I think, like all things, there's a hope that imitation will lead to understanding.
So when David has Rachel play Rex's new composition, he's trying to use the extraordinary musical bond they share to build something that does not come naturally, a simple friendship.
Goodbye, Rex.
Goodbye, Rachel.
Goodbye.
Rachel, thanks for everything.
You're welcome.
It's estimated 3 to 5% of the U.S. population is made up of swingers, or roughly about 4 million people nationally. But what about here in the metro area?
I guarantee you have a swinger on your block.
So I'm driving up this street. You're in the Stapleton redevelopment area. You've got flowers planted in the front yard. There's, a kid's playground across the street. This couldn't be more middle America. Should I be surprised that swingers live here?
You shouldn't be surprised to find swingers living anywhere.
Jed Clampett had it easy. He was just shooting for some food when he found his bubbling crude. These days, it's a lot more complicated. They're using radio signals and helicopters. Oil and gas exploration companies are dealing with hillbillies and city folks alike as they look in places where they haven't looked before, like my backyard. In more highly populated locations, they use special vibrator trucks to shake the ground. And in neighborhoods like mine, workers travel with the trucks to make sure the vibrations aren't strong enough to damage the houses.
For the last 14 years, Mr. Tree Lighter has scaled 28-foot ladders in the dark.
Fresh air.
To wrap you a gift.
It's almost nothing I'd rather do than
a magic gift.
Climb up in the tree.
Because after 120 hours and more than 75,000 lights,
magic tree,
Mr. Tree Lighter made an old crabapple disappear.
The magic is because the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, if beauty is in the eye of the beholder, what are you?
This is maximum prison center in the
This was a maximum prison center in the Republic.
And it was just wide open and all of the
And it was just wide open. And all of the criminals just walked out of the cell. It was very mysterious.
Welcome to today's edition of the Daily Talk, a Blackboard newspaper put out by the 35-year-old Sirleaf.
Okay, this is my newsroom. Okay.
This is my newsroom.
The newsroom is actually a little wooden hut right on Tubman Boulevard that he built himself. Sirleaf has only an 11th grade education, but he operates like any dedicated journalist. He's already scoured the papers and talked to sources who call from all over the city to give him tips.
Accepting for KARE-TV is Jonathan Malott, photojournalist. Accepting for 60 Minutes is Sherry Finkelstein, producer. Accepting for KOAA is April Zesball, morning news anchor. Accepting for WMSI-FM is Randy Bell, news director. Accepting for KOMU is Scott Schaefer, videographer. And accepting for World Vision is Prue Clark, reporter.
All right, our 5th overall award. WJBC-AM calls itself the voice of McLean County, Illinois. Among other stories, they covered the local police blotter and an interview with Governor Blagojevich at the Democratic Convention, who you may recall was having a little bit of trouble.
This was just a sampling of the 2008 police blotter.
There's been people arrested for mob action.
One dead, one shot, we know confirmed.
We do not have anyone in custody at the moment.
It could have been a bad weekend for everybody involved.
Governor, thanks. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Big day for Illinois with a number of the constitutional officers. You weren't a part of that. Is that something that's of concern in any way?
No, I've been telling people all day, you know how you get a speaking role at a national convention like this if you're a governor, especially one from the 5th biggest state in America? You ask. You ask to speak, and they give it to you.
Accepting on behalf of WJBC is Dan Shelley, RTNDA Director at Large.
All right, we are now moving to the breaking news category. 2008 was a year of floods, tornadoes, and huge fires. For tornadoes, we go to Oklahoma City, where KWTV covered the onset of a series of cyclones. This is some of the scariest video, you guys, we've ever seen. For fires to California, where Los Angeles station KGO was on the scene.